and the process of the service design thinking. Next, the next speaker, he has 11 years of experience in design education and has rich experience in teaching students from different countries and backgrounds. He utilizes cultural behavior, people-oriented design, creative design method, and of course, service design to deal with product research and development or R&D and social innovation and help companies to establish design, service design framework. And today he will speak on the topic of design in transformation. In a few minutes, we all will learn more about this design in transformation. I'm sure all of us here are eager to know more about this. And so with his rich experiences, I'm sure that we all will learn more and more about this because we cannot escape changes or transformation, but how can we deal with it, especially in the area of design? Meanwhile, I would like to promote about the cultural and creative district that TCDC has been promoting during this week. This is the Bangkok Design Week. If you go to the area Jarankong Krongsan, you will see a lot of creative space and design within the area that people can experience. So within this week, from today, 27th January to the 4th of February, please explore Bangkok and you will get new experience about design and creative. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go and hear about the design in transformation. Please welcome Mr. Piset Virankabutra ครับ
สวัสดีครับ I was told to stand in a certain position so my shadow won't be in there. สวัสดีครับ My name is Piset Virankabutra, or you can call me Jet. I am the director at G Lab, Social Innovation Lab at the School of Global Studies at Thammasat University. And today, my topic is about design in transformation. Hearing everyone, thank you, Kevin, for talking about meaning. That's one of the things I was about to talk about too. So I was like, oh, should I just go home? There's no point. But my talk will be a bit different because I'm not talking about large scale or country or anything. I'm just basically talking about myself. And then the journey that I've learned and what I've gone through and how I relate to the world and how the world relates to me and how we can all learn. So actually I started out as an industrial designer and I don't know what I call myself now. I've gone through so many phases in design. In the end now I probably call myself like an integrative designer because I integrated everything all into one. So for the next 28 minutes, 29 actually. So we'll talk about toy design, which is something that I love dearly, some tools, social innovation, and actually it's all about possibilities. This is actually my daughter. Actually my family is my inspiration. I think she was about 3 years old and she grabbed bubble wrap and she put it up to her ear. And I said, what are you doing, Mila? And she said, I'm calling you, Daddy. I'm like, wow, you use a bubble wrap to call me? And then she ran over into the bathtub, jumped in and said, see, I can call you. Oh. And call you. So basically she's relating the bubble wrap with the bubble in the, in the water. So she's very creative and very innovative in the way she thinks. And I really want to get into that head, like what is she thinking? What's in that? What's going on in that little brain of hers? Anyway, people talk a lot about how the world is changing. And I don't believe that the world is changing. The world is actually fighting back. It's actually us that is changing. Now we can be whatever we want to be. We can look how we want to look. It doesn't matter what you look like. You can be something else. You can actually be any gender you want. You can be this guy, and later you can be that girl. So you can choose. We have so many options. We have so many choices in life. It's unbelievable. Or you can be whatever you want to be. you can be a toy. It doesn't puzzle me. I know everyone is very different, and I don't actually think that they're crazy. I have so many crazy things that I do in my life. So it's fine if you want to look like Barbie or Ken. Maybe I want to look like you, Kevin, one day. I don't know. So I'm very fascinated by all these things, and I wanted to know, like, what is it that makes these things work or don't work? So it goes to the next thing that I'm really interested in, and something that I want to integrate into design, that I want to look at things that don't relate to design so I can create new things and new possibilities. So I look at meaning versus purpose. Kevin was talking about meaning, and I thought, like, okay, what's the point of me talking about meaning again? Then I want to go even further, is in purpose. Like, what is the purpose of all this? So I went through a lot of reading different books and going through different websites, and they talk about meaning is the past that makes you who you are today, purpose is about the future, purpose is about spiritual, meaning is more about psychological, all that. I still can't find a meaning to all of this yet. But this is a concept that I use to kind of teach and do things, like just try to innovate meaning. But purpose is something that is still searching. I still remember my uncle, when he was like 35, I asked him, like, he wasn't working. I go, what are you doing? I was like 12. I said, what are you doing? You're not working. He looked at me and he goes, I'm happy searching. Until he was 60, he's still searching. And he actually died at 66, so anyway, it's a bit sad. Anyway, so let's move on. So basically today I'll go back to the meaning and purpose and meaning and purpose. So the purpose of design is to actually differentiate. Like if you design it in red, someone will do it in black or white or whatever it is. But actually, to me, the purpose of design is to make a difference. I do feel that design needs to make a difference and not just differentiate. I'm just playing with the word, different and differentiate. I thought it was really cool, but anyway. So, and it's something that I always, is very close to my heart, to kind of, how do I make design with a difference? And I have kids, and then I thought that could be my inspiration. I still play, I love playing, I love toys. So I was involved with a project called Big Toy Design Innovation, which was run by the government. So they were kind enough to give me some money, and then like, okay, you can do a workshop and run all these toy designs. So I thought, wow, such a cool idea for me to explore different things in designing toys. And I've been running this for about 4 years now, and so I'm doing it with the Thai Toy Association and the Department of International Trade Promotion. So the point at the end was to have an exhibition, actually to stimulate trade, so that people can have new ideas and new ways of doing in designing and create more products to the world. I'm kind of, but I like to explore the knowledge of toys and how can we create better toys, or in fact, better play. How do we play better? So we went through a few themes, and we look at user-centered design, and then in 2014 we look at multi-generational toy design, because we noticed that in Thailand a lot of kids live in Bangkok, but they could be from upcountry and they live with their grandparents or their aunts and uncles, and we thought, how can we use play and toy to get them closer and interact better? And then the next year we look at how to cross-culture. How do we look at different people from different culture working, playing together? Year after that, we look at like how to bring experiences and creativity to early childhood. And this year or last year, we look at rethinking. How do we rethinking play? How can we use play in a different meaning? So, and it's a multidisciplinary teaming. In the beginning, we had enough money, so we actually got people to work with us from IDEO. And then they left IDEO, and they still came, and they still went. So we had a lot of different people from different disciplines, from like design researcher, product designers, child psychologists, mothers, fathers. We co-create with them so that we can create like a good workshop at the end. And we all work together. We had a really good time. We're still going. So we employ the human-centered design approach. I don't really use the word design thinking very much. I kind of like the word human-centered design. It's kind of more inclusive. So, and we look at emerging theories in toy design. There's so many theories for like child development in toy design, but we pick a few and then we experimented and look at how different theories can work. So we look at like the multiple intelligence theory that believe that people have different intelligence in whatever they do in language, in sports, in whatever. And it's actually quite widely used because you can actually use all these theories to design toys according to the theory. Or we look at the windows of opportunity. We look at the years, how old, because it can be more categorized by the years, and then use all the different like issues that we can design for. Or we can use like the whole child development theory. In Thai, it works really well. ร่างกาย อารมณ์ สังคม ปัญญา So they look at all these 4 things and kind of design accordingly. And then we look at the tools that we use in the workshop. So we thought that it has to be fun. So we can't just go out and kind of, okay, this is a human-centered design tool. You go and observe and interview and come back. So we thought that it'll be fun to create a hero's journey. Look at like the obstacle. What is the problem? We look at the hero, the target user. We look at the weapon, the toy. What is it going to be? And we look at the happy ending. What is the goal? So it kind of created not a new, but like a more fun environment for all the participants. So every year we take on about 44 people, 45, depends, because by the time we finish like a 4-month workshop, we'll have like about 35 left. So we need to kind of create new tools all the time for them. And like I said, it's an experiment for me too. And then we create like a new experience map tool, like the 5 Ps, to look at the whole user experience from planning, purchase, pre-play, play, post-play, so that we understand a bit more about how people play. This is from like the multi-generational toy design. We look at like grandparents and grandchildren, how they work together or how they don't work. We look at their experience map. We look at what they need, you know. And in the end, they created this. So it's a toy that they look at what they call physiotherapy and child development. So that one lever actually controls the lever and one lever actually controls the wall. So they have to work together to get the ball through so that, you know, you play with your grandparents or you play with anyone. And then, again, it's about meaning. So we use the theme meaning a lot in how we design something, like innovating the meaning of how you do something, in meaning of toy, meaning of play. So we start with the why. Why are you doing this? What is the meaning behind all this? And then one of the teams actually looked at how a child goes to bed and get up in the morning and look outside the window. And if you can see Bangkok, a very typical Asian city, is either white or black. It's quite dark. So this is actually a toy that you play with your window. So it actually attaches to your window and it colors your world. So it gives them new meaning to a child getting up in the morning and look through the window, and he can color his or her world. So it's a tool that you play with the window to change the color of your world. So we look at new meaning of how they look at things. And we use technology. This is a tool where from our user research, we found that parents really they're torn between like playing with blocks and playing with technology. So we thought like, why can't they play with block and technology? So what we did was we create a block with an embedded chip that doesn't matter how you put it together, and you use like AR technology, and the blocks, different configuration blocks are put together, creates a new story so that they can play with blocks and technology together. So that the mother can also play with the child. So this is kind of like how it works. You know, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Also, we look at like labeling, talking about like how we do user research. And we don't call people blind, or we don't call them like dumb or like deaf, because to empathize with people, you don't want to call them that. So we need to stop labeling them, and we need to be more descriptive. So we look at users, and if they can't see, we don't say you're blind, but we say they have visual needs, because we all have different needs. So we neutralize the disability. So we look at opportunity. So we try to not label people instead. This is a toy where children with mobility, with visual needs can play with other kids because it takes that sense away and you just have to run and guess what the animal is. Next, and then I'm still doing that until now. And then I started working at Thammasat, so I become more socially aware. So we look at social innovation. And this is one of the projects that I'm working with TCDC, which will be the next talk after this. It's called Designing Impact Program. And one of the teams that I am kind of coaching came up with this idea of faith for fund. So the idea behind it is that like they were looking at trying to, at first they started the project with designing furniture for the elders. But in the end, it ended up being like a public furniture for the elders. And we thought that, you know, design is design. Industrial design is industrial design. You're just designing something that looks and feels like it is made for the elders. But in the end, like, we thought that you should kind of think looking at like the system as well as the service. So what they've done is that they came up with this idea of something called faith for fun, as in like they're trying to raise money for people to buy public furniture. And so how do you do that? I mean, you can just set up a website and get someone to pay for it, but in the end, they were playing with people's belief. So in Thailand, if you actually go to the national parks and you actually go to like a waterfall, you would see weird things, like you would see a gap in the mountains, and you see sticks underneath it. And people put them there because people believe that by doing that helps them to support them. So we thought that maybe we can use that and get people to help with supporting others. So they came up with this idea that all these different components have different meanings. If you want support, you buy that part. If you want shade, you buy that part. If you want whatever, you buy this part. Apart from that, you know, Thais actually love color. Thais love color. You know that there's actually colors of the day. So every day we'll have a color. And then, so I think Wednesday is green, the Friday is blue, Saturday, I can't remember the number, the days, the colors. But it goes beyond that because you also have auspicious colors for the day, which is not the color of the day. Okay, so there's two different levels. You have the color of the day, and then the auspicious color of the day. Okay, so the color could be green for Wednesday, but the auspicious color might not be green. So they came up with this. You can see like whoever, like if they're donating, they can see like, okay, which day who's donating more, so they can donate accordingly too. So this is like a new service for them, like that plays on the belief of people's faith, so that they fund the project, so that people can have their what do you call the public seating. But apart from that, it's all industrial design, like how tall, how wide. They tested with people. I mean, what we did was we tested with we designed the seating, but then we go like, we don't have any old people. I'm not there yet. So and TCDC pulled out like a suit that you put on to emulate an old person, to test it whether it works or not. So we did all that in terms of industrial design, so we can get the right proportion and right angle and whatnot. So, and then again, like I was talking about design in transition. So I started out as an industrial designer. I started doing social innovation, but social innovation didn't just stop there because at our school, we do a lot of like capacity building for social enterprises, for social innovation. We do that all the time. But then I was involved in a project that the UNDP and the Thai government is planning on setting up a government innovation lab that wants to actually deliver better services to the people. And I thought that would be good because I thought that with my design skills, how can I do good? How can I do better? How can I deliver something that creates impact? I mean, if you're designing, let's say, something for the elders, the people who will, the impact that you create are your customers. But actually, if you work for a government agency, the impact is massive. We're talking whatever million people in this world. I mean, I don't know whatever country. Thailand, I think, has about 69 million. I think Taiwan has about 23, 24 million. So if you implement something, the impact is phenomenal. And I was very happy to work on this project. But our task was actually to research. So we talked to different people. We talked to like all the innovation labs around the world. We talked to like stakeholders. And actually the government also run like 7 pilot projects that we have to work with to learn from them and create, to set up, how to set up this innovation lab. So I love this picture. Thais are so good with service design. You actually don't need queue tickets. This was taken at a public office somewhere. You have no tickets, no worries. Here's my shoe. I mean, sorry, but people are very, very creative. I love this picture because it says something about how creative people are. And if you don't actually provide service, people are creative enough to actually create their own services, create their own ways of doing things. And I find that, by not actually creating a service, it makes people really creative. Anyway, and then we do a lot of research on like the methodologies. We talk to different people. And then we thought that, actually, we're not just designing objects or service, but we're designing systems. Because we're looking at large-scale systems. And at some point, it is called like strategic design. Because you're using design to actually strategize and actually push forward public services, public policies, new thinking, new meaning, new purpose. But in order to get there, you have to learn a lot and actually study a lot about like how systems work. So we look at one of the charts from IDEO that they work with Nesta. And so they're looking at like what government does and what citizen experience. Actually, the government is more KPI driven. What can I do to tick the box? But people is more about like building relations. So from the policy down to the service actually becomes less and less and less and less. So because governments become really busy with policy and whatever, sometimes they forget people's experience. So I kind of like this illustration very much about like how we can work, how can we change that KPI into like building relationships to people. And as we're doing the research, we found there's a lot of things that government is trying to implement, but people don't look at it as like, doesn't relate to me. That's why design thinking or human-centered design comes in really well to actually understand people and actually feedback into what government does. So we came up with a few principles for the lab. I mean, it has to be citizen-centered, which is like human-centered design. It has to be impact-driven. We have to look at how we can create impact. We have to have deep understanding. We need to really understand the issue and people. And importantly, it has to be creative problem solving. It's not just about solving the problem, but it has to be solved creatively. It has to be collaborative. It has to embrace diversity. And it obviously has to be experimental and continuous learning. And the point is that it's like a design project because in the beginning it will be very, very fuzzy. So the government has to actually believe that and actually allow us to do that as well. So we have the principles, but then we also have to look at like how we set it up. So we look at how to set it up, the proximity to power, where will it be, the pros and the cons of how they sit, and which type of lab should be set up within the government. But all this to actually improve public services. And then we look at like most importantly, because as a designer and a human-centered design advocate, we look at people. And we look at what sort of people should work for this lab. So we look at the competencies, we look at mindset, and we look at skill sets so that all this can drive the people who work in the lab. And the 3 most important things is they should be able to co-create futures with us. How do we look at the future? And envisioning possibilities. That means that they have to be able to come up with new ideas and new solutions. And importantly as well is stimulating learning. because it's all about learning, how you get it and how you throw it back and how you continue learning. So in all that, there is the mindset as well, like you need to be empathetic, resilient, but most importantly, this is something that we really learn from, is to be delightful. Because from the pilot project that was running, one of the most important things that engage with people is to have fun. You can't just go and go, this is a tool, you use it. But you need to be able to engage people, and Thais love having fun. So being delightful is so important. The rest is kind of, curious, action-oriented, creative, all that is kind of, so. But delightful is so important that you can't just go in with all the tools and all the knowledge, but you're as dull as the paint. So you have to be really engage people with a lot of fun. So there's a lot of things that we learn from like the pilot projects to create the team competencies. Like if we set up a team, who needs to be there? And also, being a designer, again, you work with different people. You have to look at the team relationships. How do you work with people, both as in a service design, as in like the back office and the front office? You need to work with people in government. At the same time, you have to work with people. But then again, the people you need to also strategically work with different types of people as well. So we need to work with like the guru, someone who knows everything, or the philosopher. We need to work with specialists, people who understand the area. We need to work with the local, people who knows the ins and outs of the area you're working in, and the rest will be the citizens that you work with. But at the same time, you need to have the government on your back. Not on your back, but behind your back. You need to have the ideology champion, someone who actually believes in what you're doing. You have to have the government financier, someone who can help you with money. And then you have the government connector, who can connect you with all the different types of projects. But what's interesting is the government financier, because we look at how we get funding. And then we don't want to just use funding, because funding is actually governs how you do your work. But we're trying to hack into like how can we look at like different types of funds that actually exist, but they don't exist. For example, like we look at funds like what happens, the funds that when they arrest drug lords, when they confiscate their 20 million baht car or houses, when they sell this, can we have that? Because it's not governed by like the funding from the state, for example. So we look at, as being a designer, you try to hack the system legally, obviously. So, and also like one of the 7 pilot projects that we find that is very successful was done by a team by Red Deck from King Mongkut University of Technology. So they look at the public system, the public health system. I mean, like service design in Thailand, when you talk about service design, the health industry and the hospitality industry champions this. I mean, you can go to all of them and they have some sort of a design, some sort of service design element in it, both front office and back office. But there's a few public hospitals that are doing it as well. But you can see that anywhere, the public service system has a lot of strain because there's a lot of people using it. So one of the projects that they worked on was one of the public hospitals, and they came up with a new queuing system, and they even work with like people without mobile phones. I mean, this is easy, like you just create an app, you can wait and whatever. But then what about people who don't have service, don't have mobile phones? So they issue a ticket and a QR code, and they even look at like the waiting system for people in wheelchairs. They actually have different flags for different conditions they're in. So they look at the whole system in how to improve both the patient and actually the doctors and nurses as well. They look at like the whole system in terms of how you distribute medication as well. So this is a very good project that will continue. And this is one of the projects that I worked on quite a while ago that we did with TCDC, and we're trying to improve the train system. That's the reason why I'm talking about this now. And one of the things that we worked on was the ticket system, because it's the smallest thing that we can work on, and it's something that we can achieve in a very short time. And one of the things we found was that the Thai train system is always late, always delayed. Now, we can't change the whole system, so we thought, how about we work with it? So we came up with a project concept, now that you have time. You buy the ticket, you walk to the platform, you don't know where the platform is, you found the platform, oh, it's an hour late. Well, now that you have time, what do? Work with it. So we came up with a ticket to you. It's like a ticket that is actually a postcard. So that you buy the ticket, it prints out like, because we also found that all the train stations in all directions have their own unique architectural styles. And then we have color-coded tickets so you can find your platform easier. And then at the back is actually a postcard. So you take your ticket, you can't find your train. Okay, now that you have time, sit down, write your postcard. And then once you arrive at your destination, you can actually just put it in the mailbox and they can send it to you, because we realize that a lot of people travel the train and then they send postcards to themselves. So that's one thing that we did. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because the SRT, State Railway of Thailand, is starting a project that I'm involved in to create a new tourist line that we're really excited about, that they're looking at service design, they're looking at industrial design, so that they can take the train system in Thailand to the next level. So we've received like 10 old carriages from Japan, but that's not a problem. We will redo it, we'll remake it, we'll make it better. So that's my end remark for today. But there's a quote that I really love and is very close to my heart is, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And that's my son. He's always doing something stupid like that. So thank you very much. That's it.